Hello everyone, Norma Woodcock speaking to you from Perth in Western Australia. I'd like to speak into the 13th Sunday in Ordinary Time Year C, and the theme, Stay or Go. Luke 9:51-62. There are three themes here on not retaliating, no turning back, and remaining faithful. I want to read a story for you about remaining faithful that did touch me quite deeply. Viktor Frankl, who spent 3 years in Auschwitz and Dachau, tells this story. As a doctor, he spent a lot of time tending sick and dying camp inmates. Near the end of the war, he and a companion devised a way of escaping. He began to collect up his few possessions, a food bowl, a pair of torn mittens, notes for a book he hoped to write. Then he took a last look in on his patients, where they lay on planks of rotten wood on either side of a hut. He came to one man who was very close to death. Frankl did his best to hide from him the fact that he was escaping. But the man wasn't fooled. In a tired, sad voice, he said, "So you too are getting out." Frankl denied it, but the word, "so you too are getting out," cut him and accused him. After finishing his rounds, he came back to the man. Again he was greeted with a look of despair which went right through him. He felt he was betraying this man. Suddenly he decided to take his fate into his own hands. He ran out of the hut and told his friend to leave without him. He was staying with his patients. At once the unhappy feeling of betrayal left him, and he says that even though he had no idea what the days ahead would bring him, he gained an inner peace he had never before experienced. And he also survived the camps. We may not be Viktor Frankl in Auschwitz or Dachau, but we are in our own lives, in our own little world, and God is actually saying to us through these scriptures, can you live a life of being faithful? Can you live a life of not turning back? And can you live a life of not retaliating? I guess my commitment is to my marriage, and I'm not going to be turning back, and I am going to be remaining faithful, but I actually have a problem with retaliation. I find that it's very hard for me not to retaliate if something is said, and again, because of my childhood, I know it's no excuse, but I can very easily jump to a reaction rather than choosing to respond in a healthy way. And it's interesting that in Lent, God was saying to me, I felt deep down inside, just don't retaliate. And you know, that was the hardest thing in the whole world. So wherever you are in your journey, maybe you are thinking of leaving your relationship, your marriage, your family, I don't know. Maybe you are thinking of going away, and maybe it's not such a good idea. Maybe you do need to make a commitment to remain faithful to that job, that church that is undergoing a lot of stress right now. Maybe you need to remain faithful to God through that church, to Jesus through that church. Maybe you have to be like me and not retaliate, but choose to have grace to respond instead of knee-jerk reaction. But it's a beautiful story, and I hope you remember it well, where Viktor Frankl set a very high benchmark for all of us, but in our own way, we too can choose to be faithful, to not retaliate and not turn back. God bless you. Thanks for listening. Look forward to meeting you again next week.